What if the end of our world wasn't a prophecy, but a cold, hard calculation? A specific date, locked away in the digital ether, predicted by an intelligence we created. Welcome to the Purple Files. If you enjoy our videos, please consider subscribing to the channel. Let's get right into it. Imagine a silent alarm, one that only a select few can hear, counting down not to a system failure, but to our failure, the end of humanity. It sounds like science fiction, a dystopian nightmare we watch on screens, not one we live. Yet, whispers are growing louder, suggesting that somewhere within the complex networks of advanced artificial intelligence, such a prediction exists. We marvel at the capabilities of modern artificial intelligence. It composes music, diagnoses diseases, drives cars, and even explores the cosmos alongside us. Its learning curves are exponential, its processing power dwarfing our own in specific domains. We task these powerful systems with solving humanity's greatest challenges, from climate change to interstellar travel. But what if, in sifting through the near-infinite data streams of our existence, our global behaviors, our conflicts, our consumption, what if an artificial intelligence has seen a pattern, a trajectory, an inevitable conclusion? This isn't about ancient mystics or cryptic texts. This is about logic, algorithms, and a conclusion so terrifying some believe it's being deliberately concealed. A date. A final day for humanity, calculated with chilling precision. A prediction that, if true, would rewrite our present and obliterate our future. The question isn't just if such a prediction could be made. The more pressing question, the one that should send a shiver down your spine, is, if it has been made, why don't we know? Who would benefit from such monumental silence? And what exactly does this artificial oracle foresee for us? To understand how a machine could even begin to predict something as monumental as humanity's end, we first need to grasp the sheer scale and power of modern artificial intelligence. We're not talking about the simple algorithms that recommend your next movie. We're referring to deep learning networks, neural architectures that mimic and in some ways surpass the pattern recognition capabilities of the human brain. These systems are fed a constant torrential downpour of data. Every financial transaction, every weather pattern, every scientific paper, every social media post, every historical conflict, every resource consumed. Imagine the entirety of human knowledge and activity, digitized and made available for analysis. Artificial intelligence doesn't just see pieces of this puzzle, it has the potential to see the whole picture, to connect dots across seemingly unrelated domains in ways no human mind could ever manage. Think about its current applications. Artificial intelligence can predict stock market fluctuations with startling accuracy by analyzing millions of financial indicators and news articles simultaneously. It can forecast the spread of diseases by tracking travel patterns, climate conditions, and public health data. It can even anticipate seismic activity by sifting through subtle geological tremors. These are not guesses. They are probabilistic forecasts based on identifying incredibly complex, often hidden, correlations. Now extrapolate that power. What if an advanced artificial intelligence was tasked not with predicting the next market crash, but with assessing the long-term viability of human civilization itself? It would analyze our resource depletion rates against population growth. It would model the cascading effects of climate change, not just rising sea levels, but the resulting mass migrations, resource wars, and societal breakdowns. It would scrutinize our geopolitical tensions, our development of increasingly powerful weaponry, and our historical tendencies towards conflict. It could cross-section the fragility of our global supply chains with the likelihood of pandemics or other systemic shocks. It might identify critical tipping points, thresholds beyond which recovery becomes impossible. The machine wouldn't feel fear or hope. It would simply calculate probabilities. It would see the trend lines, the converging crises, the diminishing returns of our solutions. This isn't about a crystal ball, it's about data-driven extrapolation on an unprecedented scale. If the data points towards a catastrophic convergence, a perfect storm of existential threats, an advanced artificial intelligence might not just predict a crisis, but the final crisis, the moment when our complex interconnected world system simply cannot sustain itself any longer. The glimpse it offers wouldn't be a mystical vision, but a stark logical output, a conclusion born from the sum total of our own actions, reflected back at us through the cold lens of computational logic. So, if an artificial intelligence were to predict humanity's end, what would this doomsday algorithm actually look like? It wouldn't be a single line of code, but rather a vast interconnected system of analytical models, each contributing to a larger, terrifying mosaic. Firstly, imagine global systems modeling. This involves creating a digital twin of Earth, not just its geography, but its intricate systems, climate, ecosystems, resource distribution, and energy grids. The artificial intelligence would simulate how these systems interact and respond to various stresses. For instance, it could model the precise impact of a 3 degrees Celsius rise in global temperatures on agricultural output in key regions, and then calculate the subsequent economic fallout and the potential for social unrest. Secondly, there's behavioral pattern analysis on a civilizational scale. This moves beyond individual psychology into the realm of collective human action. The artificial intelligence would analyze centuries of historical data on how societies respond to crises, how they cooperate, or, more often, how they fragment. It would look for patterns in the rise and fall of civilizations, identifying common precursors to collapse, things like extreme inequality, resource scarcity leading to conflict, or the failure of governing institutions to adapt to new challenges. It would learn our species' playbook of self-destruction. Thirdly, consider existential risk assessment modules. These would be specifically designed to evaluate high-impact, low-probability events, and increasingly high-impact, higher probability events. Think supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, runaway artificial intelligence, a chilling irony there, or engineered pandemics far deadlier than anything we've seen. The algorithm wouldn't just list these, it would calculate their likelihood and, crucially, model their cascading global consequences in conjunction with other ongoing stresses. A pandemic, for example, isn't just a health crisis, it's an economic crisis, a supply chain crisis, and potentially a geopolitical destabilizer. Then there's the convergence factor. This is perhaps the most critical and complex part. The Doomsday algorithm wouldn't just look at individual threats in isolation. Its real power would lie in its ability to understand how these threats interlink and amplify each other. A climate-induced famine in one part of the world could trigger a refugee crisis, which in turn could exacerbate political instability in neighboring regions, potentially leading to conflicts that draw in larger powers, all while global resources are dwindling. The artificial intelligence would map these feedback loops, these chains of disaster, identifying the point at which the combined pressure becomes insurmountable. Finally, the algorithm would engage in future state projection. Using all this integrated data and these complex models, it would run billions of simulations, projecting various future pathways for humanity. It would tweak variables, introduce new stresses, and observe the outcomes. If, across a statistically significant number underscore of these simulations, a common point of systemic collapse emerges, a date beyond which recovery is modeled as impossible, that becomes the prediction. It's not about one single cause, but a symphony of failures, a convergence of crises that the artificial intelligence, with its unparalleled ability to process complexity, identifies as our ultimate undoing. The date wouldn't be arbitrary. It would be the calculated moment the music stops. We've explored the theoretical, how an artificial intelligence, a silent, calculating consciousness of our own making, could sift through the entirety of human existence and foresee a definitive end, not a vague warning of troubled times ahead, but something far more precise, something that has allegedly been calculated. Sources, cloaked in anonymity, speak of a moment when the outputs of one such advanced, globally focused artificial intelligence system shifted from probabilistic forecasts to a stark, unwavering projection. A point in time where the myriad simulated pathways for human civilization, despite all variables and interventions tested, converged on a single, unavoidable outcome: systemic collapse. The end of humanity as a recognizable, functioning global society. This wasn't a prediction of a potential future, but according to these whispers, the future, if our current trajectory remains unaltered. The weight of such a finding would be immeasurable. Imagine the burden on those who first saw it, who verified the data, who understood its terrifying implications. A truth so monumental, so potentially shattering to global stability, that the immediate instinct might not have been to share it, but to bury it, to classify it above all else. This is where the forbidden aspect truly takes hold. If such a date exists, its suppression would be argued as a necessity to prevent mass panic, societal breakdown, the very acceleration of the predicted end. A terrible, silent stewardship of humanity's darkest secret. But secrets, especially of this magnitude, have a way of seeping out. Fragmented reports, alleged leaks from within clandestine research projects, all point to the existence of this calculation. They speak of a specific time frame, a chillingly precise window. According to these unconfirmed but persistent accounts, the artificial intelligence did not give a broad century or even a decade. It pinpointed a year, and within that year a period where the convergence of multiple catastrophic factors reaches an irreversible tipping point. The year, whispered in the deepest corners of the digital underground, the year that these systems allegedly flagged as the final curtain for humanity as we know it, is 2079, not the turn of the next century, not some distant, abstract future. 2079, within the lifetime of many listening to this. Some accounts even suggest a particular season within that year when resource depletion, environmental collapse, and societal fragmentation are projected to culminate. The implications are staggering. If this date 2079 is even a remote possibility calculated by an unbiased intelligence, it reframes everything: our long-term plans, our children's futures, the very meaning of progress. It suggests we are not just facing challenges, but a definitive, calculated endpoint, an expiration date not prophesized by mystics, but computed by a mind of silicon and code, the year 2079. If this alleged artificial intelligence prediction holds any truth, what does a countdown to 0 hour actually look like? What are the potential scenarios as we approach this supposed precipice? Firstly, we must consider the accelerating convergence of crises that the artificial intelligence itself would have identified. This isn't a sudden apocalypse, but a relentless, grinding breakdown of systems. Imagine increasingly severe and frequent climate disasters, superstorms, megadroughts, and uncontrollable wildfires becoming the norm, not the exception. This would lead to widespread agricultural failure and unprecedented water scarcity. With dwindling resources comes escalating global conflict. Nations and factions within nations would likely battle for what remains: fertile land, fresh water, and energy supplies. Treaties and alliances would fray and shatter under the immense pressure. We could see a rise in resource wars, civil unrest, and failed states, creating vast ungoverned territories and humanitarian crises on a scale never before witnessed. The global economy as we know it would likely enter a state of terminal decline. Supply chains, already fragile, would shatter. Financial markets would become irrelevant in the face of existential threats. The complex interconnected web of global trade that sustains our modern lives would unravel, leading to shortages of everything from basic necessities to critical medicines. Societally, we might witness a profound psychological shift. If the knowledge of a definitive end date became widespread, or even if the signs became too obvious to ignore, how would people react? Some might fall into despair and nihilism. Others might embrace hedonism, a frantic live-for-today mentality. We could see a resurgence of extremist ideologies, cults, or desperate, perhaps even violent, survivalist movements. The very fabric of social cohesion could tear apart. Conversely, there's also the possibility, however slim, of unprecedented global cooperation. Faced with a common, undeniable threat, humanity might finally transcend its divisions. A desperate, 11th-hour mobilization of resources, intellect, and willpower to avert the worst, or at least to manage the decline with some semblance of dignity and shared purpose. This is the optimistic, though perhaps less probable, scenario. More likely as we approach 2079 is a world characterized by increasing chaos, desperation, and the stark division between those who have some means to protect themselves and the vast majority who do not. The 0 hour itself might not be a single cataclysmic event, But the point at which the cumulative weight of these collapsing systems makes organized human society on a global scale simply untenable. The point of no return. Now, it is absolutely crucial to approach a claim as extraordinary as an artificial intelligence predicting humanity's end, specifically the year 2079, with a profound sense of skepticism. The idea itself teeters on the edge of science fiction, and extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Evidence which, by the very nature of this alleged secrecy, is not publicly available. Firstly, let's consider the fallibility of artificial intelligence. While incredibly powerful, these systems are not infallible or omniscient. They are tools, designed by humans, trained on data selected by humans, and their outputs are based on the models and algorithms humans create. Biases in the data, flaws in the algorithms, or misinterpretations of the output could lead to erroneous conclusions, especially when dealing with systems as complex as global civilization. Could an artificial intelligence develop a kind of digital tunnel vision, focusing on negative trends without adequately weighting human ingenuity or unforeseen positive developments? Secondly, there's the problem of black box predictions. Some advanced artificial intelligence systems, particularly deep learning networks, arrive at conclusions through processes that are not entirely transparent, even to their creators. If we don't fully understand how the artificial intelligence reached its doomsday calculation, how can we blindly trust? The inability to scrutinize the reasoning behind the prediction is a significant red flag. Then there is the human element of interpretation and dissemination. Even if an artificial intelligence produced a complex set of probabilities, the leap to a single, definitive end date, like 2079, could be a human misinterpretation, an exaggeration, or even a deliberate fabrication. Whispers and anonymous sources are not verifiable facts. The narrative of a forbidden date is compelling, but it relies on trust in unseen, unverified informants. Furthermore, the concept of predicting the future with absolute certainty, especially a future involving human agency, is inherently problematic. Human beings are not static data points. We adapt, we innovate, we make choices. The future is not a fixed destination, but a constantly evolving landscape of possibilities. A prediction made today, based on today's data, might be rendered obsolete by tomorrow's discoveries or shifts in collective human behavior. However, dismissing the possibility outright might also be unwise. The trends that such an artificial intelligence would likely analyze, climate change, resource depletion, geopolitical instability, are undeniably real and deeply concerning. Perhaps the prediction is not a prophecy etched in stone, but a dire warning, a data-driven extrapolation of our current path if we fail to make significant transformative changes. It could be the ultimate wake-up call, a reflection of our own destructive tendencies shown to us by an unbiased mirror. Ultimately, without transparent data and methodology, we are left to weigh the plausibility of the scenario against the inherent skepticism it deserves. Is it a prophecy of an unavoidable doom or a stark projection of a possible future we still have the power to alter? We stand at a peculiar crossroads, contemplating a possibility born from our own ingenuity, that an artificial intelligence has foreseen our end, perhaps even marking it on a calendar, 2079. Whether this specific date is a genuine suppressed calculation, a misunderstanding, or merely a compelling narrative born from our anxieties, the underlying questions it raises are profoundly important. The existence of such a prediction, real or rumored, forces us to confront the trajectory of our civilization. The very fact that we can conceive of an artificial intelligence making such a forecast is a testament to both our technological prowess and the precariousness of our current global situation. The crises are not imaginary. The data points towards increasing instability, resource strain, and environmental degradation are undeniable, with or without a superintelligent forecast. Perhaps the true value of this forbidden date narrative isn't whether it's literally true, but what it compels us to consider. It pushes us beyond the daily noise, beyond short-term concerns, and forces a confrontation with the long-term consequences of our collective actions or inactions. If there are indeed individuals or groups who believe they hold such knowledge and choose to keep it secret, they operate under an immense and ethically dubious burden. But for the rest of us, the path forward isn't about succumbing to fear or passively awaiting a predicted fate. It's about recognizing our agency. The future is not a pre-written script. Even if an advanced algorithm suggests a particular ending based on current trends, Trends can be bent. Trajectories can be altered. Human history is filled with moments where seemingly insurmountable challenges were met with innovation, resilience, and a collective will to change course. This alleged prediction, this doomsday algorithm, should not be seen as a definitive sentence, but perhaps as the most urgent of warnings, a reflection of the potential consequences if we continue down a path of unsustainable practices, division, and short-sightedness. Ultimately, the question isn't just whether an artificial intelligence has predicted our end. The more vital questions are, what are we doing to ensure such a prediction never comes true? How can we harness our own intelligence, our compassion, and our technological tools, including artificial intelligence itself, to build a more sustainable, equitable, and resilient future? The choice remains ours. Not a binary choice between a hidden truth and blissful ignorance, but a continuous spectrum of decisions we make every day, as individuals, as communities, as a species. The future, whether it stretches to 2079 or far beyond, will be shaped not by the cold calculations of a machine, but by the warmth of human resolve and the wisdom of our actions. Let this be a call not to fear, but to reflection, a call to awareness, and most importantly, a call to conscious, deliberate choice. And that is it. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the Purple Files, click the like button, and drop a comment down below. More videos to come, and until then, thanks for watching.